Hey everyone, welcome back for Worldview Wednesday. This is our second recording, so it's kind of fun. If you've been watching the other days, kind of look around. Do you see any differences? Bonus points for those of you who could pick it out. So, for our Worldview Wednesday today, this whole week we've wait, let me pause first because we have introductions to make. So before I launch into what we're actually doing, I am Amy Davison. I'm with Mama Bear Apologetics, and today we have with us
Elizabeth Urbanowitz from Foundation Worldview.
And Lindsay Medenwalt from Mama Bear Apologetics.
Yep, and we are missing Miss Hillary. She is typically here with us, but she is just recovering from an illness, not COVID. She's just feeling down and out. So it's just going to be us three today. And we're so thankful to have especially Elizabeth here, because if you parents have been doing homeschooling with your kiddos a bit, you have this great opportunity to infuse some biblical teaching along with their just regular academic studies. And I just want to encourage you guys to hop on over to worldviewfoundations.com and check out the amazing
Foundation Worldview.
That's what I meant. just switch them. Head over to that website and you will have an amazing resource that you can do with your kiddos. It's just one of those days, guys. The quarantine is getting to my brain.
We understand.
We'll get there.
We're going to make it. So what we want to talk about and what we've kind of been hinting at throughout this week is this theme of objective morality and talking to our kids about objective morality. Now, it's just an important thing for us to be able to understand and articulate, because it very much will shape your kids' worldview and how they react with the world. So it's just something important that we want them to understand. And what we mean by objective morality is that rightness and wrongness are based on the unchanging nature of God, and they apply to all persons. They're not something that that comes about through evolution or personal preference, or maybe even by what our society dictates. And these are all other options that your kids are going to encounter. And so we want to be able to know what that is and to be able to articulate it with our kiddos, as well as help them to be able to see it in movies, in music, in TV, and that sort of thing. And another great way that we can help them to understand this is through books. And we love having Elizabeth here because she has such great experience with her kiddos. And she's got a wonderful book, one that I actually was able to have read to me as a kiddo. And so I'm going to pass this off to her to share what book we recommend for you guys to read this week with your kids.
Yes, thanks, Amy. So the book we're recommending this week is Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And this is an African folk tale. And this is just such a great opportunity to talk with our kids about objective morality, as Amy was saying, because basically in this book, a man named Mufaro has two very beautiful daughters. And one of the daughters is very mean and nasty. She's just very prideful. The other one is very humble and kind and caring. And one day the king comes and says that, or he sends his messengers to say that he's looking for a wife, and all of the women in the land are to present themselves. And the mean and nasty daughter, who's always treating the other sister really poorly, she sneaks off in the middle of the night to be the first one there. And in the woods, she encounters some different people, a poor, hungry boy, an old woman, several different animals. And they ask her for help, and she just scoffs at them and says, "I will be your queen. You should be bowing before me." And then the kind daughter, waits for her father, and they go out together, and she encounters the same people in the forest, and she's very kind to them. She provides them with food and other things. And then when they arrive at the great city where the king is, the mean daughter comes running out of the palace and says, "Don't go in there. There's a giant snake who told me everything I've ever done wrong." And then the kind daughter goes in, and she realizes that the snake is one that she's known all along. And it turns out he soon materializes into the king. And so the king was was this animal. He was also the
too.
Yeah. Yes.
Forget frogs. You got snakes now.
That's the tail part, like the fairy tale or folk tale part. So the not real part. But it turns out that all these people that the kind daughter was helping in the forest were actually the king in disguise. And so this is a great opportunity to talk with our kids just about what is right and what is wrong, because this book takes place in a completely different time and a completely different culture. Yet the things that we see that are portrayed as right are things that are objectively right, no matter what time or culture that you're in. But one of the lies, the cultural lies that our kids are going to continually face is, well, you believe that that's right because you were born in America at this time and this place, and this is what we happen to prefer. Or else they'll hear, like, oh, this is just part of your evolutionary instinct. Or, you know what, you just do you. You just do you.
Yes.
So a good question that we can ask our kids after reading this book is, what actions did you see in the book that were right actions? Who did you see doing the right actions and who did you see doing the wrong actions? And then to ask them, okay, so this big book takes place a long time ago in Africa. Were those things that we saw right, were those right back in Africa then? Are they right now? And then to ask them, like, okay, so are right and wrong, are they truths that are outside of us that we can't change? Or are they feelings that, they're going to change based on person to person? So just really to get them thinking about what morals are, that they're objective, that they're outside of us. And then we can just ask them, more specific questions about how they know what was right and what was wrong, because we want to eventually bring them to the place where they see, oh my goodness, these morals, they're outside of us. They come from God, that in order to have these moral values, we need someone who actually grounds them, who created them. So great opportunity for discussion with our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having these kind of discussions really is as simple as sitting around a kitchen table and asking them, what they think truth is. That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because, the way that one of my daughters describes it is whatever she believes is true. And we know that that's what the message is from culture. That's what she's learning from her friends. My truth is truth. And that could be as simple as saying, well, if your truth is 1 + 1 = 10, then your truth is wrong, right? Because 1 + 1 is always 2. And math is an easy way to kind of illustrate what truth is. But this story I had never heard of, but immediately I thought of Beauty and the Beast, where that old woman comes to the prince's door and he's like so self-obsessed, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, leave me, be gone. And she curses him, which is dramatic. But it also reminded me of Matthew 25, when Jesus is talking about, and particularly he's talking about sheep and goats, but he talks about the least of these. And the king is saying, however you treated the least of these is how you treated me. And that is almost exactly what's happening with Pharaoh's daughters.
Yes, exactly.
The prince has disguised himself as the least of these in order to see how they would be treated. So I think it's an easy way to kind of open up the door of conversation. Another good example is from Natasha Crane's new book. You like how the book just
I know, that's awesome.
Materialized.
So her new book was released, I think, last week. And it's talking with your kids about Jesus, which is super convenient, seeing as, we're talking about the resurrection this week.
Right.
It's coming up. But in her chapter 10, she says, what did Jesus teach about loving others? And that's a great conversation starter to have with your kids as well. As they're learning more and more about Jesus and what he did, use that as an opportunity to highlight the things that he says about loving others. One of the things that Natasha says is a good way to open the conversation is to ask, when you think of what it means to love others as a Christian, what kinds of things come to mind? Now, of course, this has to do with caring for their souls. We, of course, want them to have eternal life. It's caring for their earthly needs. So especially now, if we know that there is a neighbor who can't leave the house, what do they need to survive? Maybe they need milk. Maybe they need bread. What can we do to help them? And then the truth about morality in a fallen world, because we're all fallen. And what does that mean for us now? And what will that mean for us in eternity? And how can we find redemption in Christ through what he did on the cross and his resurrection, which is super convenient that this is we're Holy Week and we're leading up to Easter. And so now is the time to really prime your kids and talk to them about these things.
No, those are all awesome suggestions. And I think it's really neat, Elizabeth, too, thinking of this book, this actually can help kind of tie in the past week where we were talking about attributes of God, too, because you see those kind of carried out within these daughters. So just some really great suggestions from us to help you so that way you can just make the most of these opportunities with your kiddos. So we will have a link included with this video to where you will have a great reading, which Elizabeth, you were saying that the gal who reads this book does a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Yes, does a really great job with the accents. I feel like it's finally a good link of a reading you're going to really want to listen to.
It's so important. Yeah, so we're going to have a great link down below. And so that way you can just sit there and watch it with your kiddos and look at the pictures and just have some great discussions. And as always, if any of this has been a blessing to you, feel free to go on Facebook, Twitter, do hashtag Worldview Wednesday, and just share with us how it's going with your family, because we're all in this together and we want to support each other as best as possible. So we love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow for Theology Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.